My name's Morgan Lewis. I'm 32, and I never imagined my own wedding reception in our Chicago suburb would turn into a total betrayal. As a graphic designer, I'm used to spotting fakes in logos and layouts anywhere. But nothing prepped me for what hit after my grandmother passed last month, leaving me an inheritance that twisted my family into something unrecognizable. When I got that text from my dad family chat at the reception, big stuff, my gut twisted. By the time I stepped into the venue, the vibe was off, like they'd all rehearsed without me. We mingled with guests, champagne flowing, but the forced laughs couldn't mask it. Then I overheard it, my mom and sister tucked in a corner, giggling and whispering. Finally, we got what we wanted. My blood ran cold, but I just smiled, acted clueless, and slipped away as they plotted over those papers tied to my trust. Little did they know those funds locked tight with a trigger ready to blow the second they pushed. And that was only the spark. Before I spill how I turned their scheme into a total game over, drop your city in the comments if you've survived family twists, and smash subscribe, because this mess, it's about to explode. From those early days in our Chicago suburb, my grandmother Harriet was more than family. She guided me through life's practical sides. Our Sunday brunches at the local diner overlooking Lake Michigan became routines I cherished. While other kids slept in, I'd sit across from Grandma Harriet, listening to her tales of tough times and the habits that kept her afloat. She made finances simple for a child. Harriet would divide her sandwich into parts, saying this section covers basics like housing and groceries, that one builds savings for tomorrow, another helps those in need, and the tiniest bit allows fun without guilt. Plan ahead for security. Morgan, not chase every whim. Those ideas stuck. By 10, I tracked allowance from neighborhood tasks in a notebook, watching pennies add up. Grandma Harriet approved quietly as I grew steadier. At 14, I saved from after-school errands, delivering flyers around Oak Park to start a small savings account. We'd discuss balances over tea, her questions pushing me toward wise decisions without commanding them. It built confidence, like shaping my future step by step. My sister Caitlin handled money differently. 2 years younger, she spent her cash on flashy accessories and toys by Tuesday, always with reasons about trends at school. Our parents, my mother Lori and father Rodney, backed her without question. When Caitlin ran short, they'd hand over more from their pockets, labeling it a quick help. If she skipped saving for a class outing or scratched a neighbor's gate during wild games, they'd pay up directly. These weren't one-offs, they shaped our home life. I remember scrimping for weeks at 12 to afford a basic sketch pad for design projects. The afternoon I aimed to buy it, Caitlin smashed her scooter into the miller's fence while racing friends. Instead of her fixing it through odd jobs Mom and Dad took from my jar, vowing to replace it later. That never happened. I took on extra leaf raking in Chicago's windy fall to recover, swallowing the annoyance. The unevenness touched everything growing up. Caitlin's rash choices got softened, mine required effort. Parents called it aiding where required, but it hurt. Grandma Harriet spotted the gaps soon. In our diner chats, she'd advise that family counts, but don't let it weaken your base. Hold lines gently, yet solidly. She offered balance, confirming my approach was smart, not selfish. My brother Spencer fit into this too. 1 year older, he often covered for Caitlin early on, when she dented a car door with her ball in the park. Spencer helped hide the mark before parents noticed, then backed her story. Mom and Dad praised his protectiveness, dipping into shared funds, again funds I'd contributed to through chores. I ended up working longer at the community center to refill what vanished, gritting through the unfairness. This dynamic defined our childhood in Chicago. Caitlin pursued quick joys, I focused on lasting habits. Grandma Harriet's guidance countered the bias at home. I didn't realize then how crucial those foundations would become as tensions built. As we entered our teens in the mid-2000s around Chicago, the favoritism sharpened noticeably. Caitlin's carelessness ramped up without repercussions. She rammed her skateboard into a street sign during a stunt in the local playground, bending it badly. Rather than having her handle it perhaps through babysitting or paper routes, Mom and Dad pulled from the education pot I'd stocked with weekend earnings. They framed it as a group matter, but the refund they mentioned evaporated. I clocked additional shifts at the ice cream stand, hands sticky from scoops, until blisters formed to restore the loss. This cycle echoed in larger scales. High school wrapped, and Caitlin enrolled at a private college in southern Illinois, tuition covered fully despite her average marks. She coasted through terms, dropping classes and shifting focuses randomly, yet parents rescued her, repeatedly issuing payments for repeats or extra sessions. In contrast, I assembled my path at a public university nearby, leaning on grants and constant side work. I juggled lectures with hours at retail spots in Oak Brook Center, cramming notes during quiet lulls to hold my grades. Adulthood approached, and I steadily shaped my role in graphic design. From an internship at a compact Chicago firm while studying, I soaked up skills designing visuals, studying patterns, connecting at area meetups. Post-degree, I grabbed a starter position at a larger outfit, pushing through extended days to stand out. Advances arrived gradually, from assistant to designer, managing client concepts and online layouts that strengthened my skills. By mid-20s, I'd earned a reliable spot with income for a simple unit in Oak Park's calmer areas, plus a sturdy backup reserve. Caitlin's trajectory diverged sharply. She drifted among positions as if they were passing interests, launching well in photography or coordination, only to exit soon, citing restrictive bosses or dull settings. One role at a studio folded when she skipped shoots for outings. Another in events crumbled over reliability gaps. Each setback drew parents in, providing advances or introductions to restart her. They'd arrange home meals where they'd highlight her newest venture, like a portrait service or exhibit plan, even as I heard from contacts that these efforts collapsed quickly. I maintained contact with visits every couple weeks, navigating Chicago's bustling avenues to the family spot. During those gatherings, I'd listen as Mom extolled Caitlin's flair or Dad updated on her progress. Resentment brewed internally. I'd suggest portfolio tweaks or spending trackers, but they'd wave it off. Still, I held back, preserving the shaky bonds. Grandma Harriet's past counsel lingered, urging me to stand firm without shattering things yet. Spencer played a part in this too. As the oldest, he stepped up for Caitlin, often co-signing her first credit line when she wanted gear for a shoot. When that led to missed payments, he smoothed it, with parents adding to the tally of rescues. His involvement deepened the tilt, making my self-made strides feel isolated. Yet I pushed on, logging designs late into nights, determined not to rely on anyone. The divide marked our shift to self-sufficiency. Caitlin glided on buffers of aid while I advanced through persistence. The skew wasn't hidden anymore. It underpinned every exchange, priming for clashes ahead. Last year, when Harriet faced her diagnosis in her place near Chicago, the impact struck hard. Stage 4 cancer. The doctor's phrase blurred the rest. The ground shifted, grief flooding as I grasped the limited outlook. Harriet had anchored my world, now enduring therapies with slim promise. I promptly sought time off from design work, shifting deadlines and projects to focus on her. Days evolved into patterns of clinic trips through Chicago's overcast routes, holding her during infusions, grabbing ice chips, or sharing design magazines to ease the discomfort. Those 6 months drained energy, countless visits at Rush Medical Center, arranging with staff for relief measures and managing her routines back home. I'd linger evenings, balancing office emails while she napped, stocking comforts like warm throws or her chosen mint brew. Harriet stayed alert amid weariness, sharing quips on clinic meals or untold relatives' tales to lift moods. I valued those exchanges. Aware moments dwindled. Caitlin's role contrasted sharply. She appeared just twice throughout, brief drops that seemed dutiful rather than heartfelt. First, she arrived with coffee from a hip downtown spot, talking lightly about her week before pivoting to her recent pitch, a mobile photo setup. She subtly requested startup funds from Harriet, pitching it as a solid opportunity. Harriet turned it down kindly, glancing my way with subtle awareness. The second stop mirrored chatter mixed with nudges for resources to broaden contacts. Caitlin departed early each time, mentioning schedule conflicts I doubted were real. Spencer showed up more, but his presence leaned toward backing Caitlin. He'd downplay her absences, saying her gigs kept her tied up, or shift talks to how she'd thrive with a boost. When Harriet mentioned the uneven support, Spencer defended parents' choices as natural, avoiding deeper probes. As Harriet weakened, she drew me close one calm day in her space voice firm despite the mask. "We need to address something confidential," she stated, guiding me to reach her lawyer, Mr. Caldwell. I called from her line, setting it loud as she rested close. Mr. Caldwell, courteous and direct, acknowledged the contact. With Harriet engaged, she directed updates to her plans, stressing privacy. We moved efficiently in the weeks ahead. Mr. Caldwell prepared an irrevocable trust, designating me sole recipient. To secure it, Harriet included my Aunt Pauline, her sibling, who signed as witness and aided in confirming her clarity via health statements. Aunt Pauline, ever organized in kin issues, handled sealings at the residence and examined details with us. The trust shifted key holdings, her accounts holdings, and property title beyond her estate prior to any claims. Harriet shared her motives on a clear night seated near her view of Chicago's skyline. "I care for your folks, but they've propped Caitlin too much advances for her flops, justifications for her paths. My oversight for not stepping in during your upbringings. This shields what I've gathered from depletion. Terms lock tight allocations for my stability learning if wanted, and security with strict rules, blocking shares to relatives." Absent Mr. Caldwell's trustee nod. Aunt Pauline concurred, recalling instances of the propping she'd observed. Doubt pulled at me first, hiding this from Lori, and Rodney seemed sly. But Harriet's accounts of their ongoing pleas for rescues over years solidified the need. As her state faded, completing the trust granted her calm. "I can ease now without concerns," she murmured once. The quiet held guarding her intent from the habits that had long distorted our ties. 3 weeks post-service back in Chicago, a curt message from Rodney appeared on my screen. "Reception discussion Friday, key finance talk." The stiffness felt unusual. Our events were typically casual picnics, or spur-of-the-moment meets, not planned chats. Still morning Harriet unease built, hinting this went beyond wrapping her matters. The ride to the venue that day let me mull the note. Chicago's known paths, edged with tidy parks and stores, offered scant relief. Arriving at the spot, I noted Caitlin's flashy crossover parked sloppily, its sleek wheels and vanity tags, hinting at costs for someone perpetually claiming slim budgets. My reliable hatchback seemed plain next to it, mirroring our ongoing contrasts. Lori welcomed me with an exaggerated grin, her hug dragging slightly. "Come on in, reception set," she urged. The aroma of catered spreads drifted out, a selection she saved for coaxing agreements or softening news. Rodney met me with a rigid incline rather than his typical shoulder tap, words brief. "Glad you're here, Morgan. Caitlin's in the hall already." The mood buzzed with hidden aims thick like fog. We eased into chit-chat near the setup updates on traffic, local changes, but it rang hollow. Caitlin reclined against a chair, tapping her device, scarcely looking over. "Hi there," she said flatly, her arm showing a pricey bracelet I pegged at thousands. Despite her gripes on work flux, she always sported upscale pieces. Lori fussed with trays, fingers restless as she laid out gourmet bites uncommon for relaxed occasions. Rodney glanced at his timepiece, often dodging glances. Assisting Lori with setups from the prep area, I spotted documents on a side stand, forms labeled "Trust Access My Details" in awkward script. Before she could cover with a cloth, I caught the altered marks, a rough copy of my hand. Pulse quickened, yet I stayed composed, linking their goal to shift Harriet's holdings quietly. Stepping aside for a quick break, I veered to Rodney's study nearby. Door-cracked voices echoed from the main space. On his table sat a binder marked Caitlin's records in his precise script. Opening it, doubts confirmed logs of rescues topping $100,000 across years, all outstanding. Captures from Caitlin's profiles displayed opulent escapes to beaches and cities, aligned with her dips. Key was a note from her former partner Garrett months back, warning parents of her excessive habits and suggesting stops. They'd ignored it outright. I captured images swiftly on my phone, every incriminating sheet, then replaced the file as steps neared. Lori emerged in the frame, expression puzzled. "What brings you here?" I played sentiment, nodding to framed shots. Remembering Harriet. Her strain lessened and she led me out without further questions. In a quiet corner now, a quiet zone, I murmured a connection to my close friend Carrie, familiar with our setup since school days. "This is wild," I whispered, detailing the changed forms and binder fines. Carrie's shock matched mine. "They're scheming to grab your share for Caitlin's issues." After years of that tilt, she affirmed my moves, strengthening my stance. Then I reached Aunt Pauline softly. As Harriet's kin and trust signer, she understood instantly. "Follow our outline," she suggested quietly. "Collect what possible. Mr. Caldwell and I stand with you." Her backing armored me, assuring I wasn't exaggerating. With proof in hand, I steadied and rejoined the group, braced for developments. At the reception that evening in Chicago, the spreads cooled as talk turned direct. Rodney adjusted his tie, placing his glass down. "We've considered Harriet's arrangements," he started, tone like a meeting lead. Lori agreed with a bob, eyes shifting among us. "Your sister's facing tight finances, and given your steadiness, it fits to move some of that legacy her direction." The statement hit sharply. They weren't suggesting they were assigning my resources as Caitlin's fix. I maintained poise, drawn from client sessions, and inquired softly. "What sort of bind project setbacks?" Caitlin fidgeted, evading my look. Lori interjected. "The field's hard for artistic sorts like her. She requires a reboot." I pressed in, voice even. "Details, please." "How much in play?" Rodney replied promptly. "About $250,000. It'll wipe her obligations and offer a clean slate." The figure jarred me, probably most of Harriet's safeguarded amount. Yet I continued collecting facts. "And these obligations from what collapsed initiatives?" Caitlin exhaled theatrically. "Certain ventures fell short, lenders push." I delved more, citing bits from Garrett without naming him. "Word in circles says your recent series gained traction before closing." What shifted? Lori and Rodney traded looks while Caitlin stirred her drink. "Issues emerged," Rodney offered vaguely. Unsatisfied, I went further. "Issues like premium lease payments that upscale ride outside, or those trips to warm spots. From accounts, this exceeds business, it's habit excess." Caitlin reddened. "Who shared that, Garrett?" "That resentful ex knows nothing." Her admission verified the note's truth, but I restrained, allowing their slip. As strain mounted, Rodney redirected. "Bottom line, kin backs each other. Your set unit solid roll. Caitlin needs it more." The presumption stirred anger, but I played my cards steadily. "You mean via those adjusted forms I noticed earlier, rewrote without input?" The space stilled. Lori's cup rattled. "What do you mean?" I locked eyes. "The docs on the stand. My info, but not my mark." "That's tampering," Caitlin retorted. "You're imagining. We were merely reviewing paths." Rodney attempted calm. "It's for overall benefit." "Agree, and it's simple." Then my device vibrated, a notice from the linked app. "Attempt detected," it stated, with a fraud indicator glowing. Mr. Caldwell had arranged it as protection, alerting me, and possibly officials per Illinois rules if advanced. I displayed the display. "Check this alert activated. Systems catch changes quick, might trigger reviews for unauthorized acts." Chaos broke. Lori gasped. "Shut that!" Caitlin reached for my gadget, but I withdrew. Rodney blanched. "Misunderstanding. Clear it." I stood, resolute. "No. Harriet moved all to an irrevocable trust months prior. The holdings you target hollow frame, resources secure, unreachable." Caitlin erupted. You're greedy, keeping what Grandma passed while I scrape. Lori welled up. How could you to us? Rodney charged. Harriet leaned toward you now, you're warping her intent. Their barbs flew tagging me as thankless cold, but armed with images of their rescue logs and Garrett's note, I rebutted each rejection. This isn't preference, it's guard against your propping. Circles mentioned your ways too. Spencer silent till then shifted. He'd assisted their setup initially, but now his face tightened. I can't back this, he muttered, turning to me. The tampering crossed lines, I saw it go too far. His reversal stunned them, bolstering my position as their strategy frayed under scrutiny, the alert a quiet proof of Harriet's planning. In that intense instant, the kin mask cracked beyond repair. In the months after that reception in Chicago, the consequences rolled out swiftly. Lori, Rodney, and Caitlin didn't hesitate to launch a legal push, submitting papers to challenge the trust's legitimacy. They engaged a litigation expert from a city firm asserting improper sway and questioning Harriet's competence. Mr. Caldwell, as joint overseer, built a strong counter, submitting solid records, health logs, verifying her sharpness attestations from Aunt Pauline at the execution, and dates proving transfers predated her downturn. Per Illinois statutes, where such trusts evade probate when formed right, the judge tossed their arguments fast. The setup held firm, no openings for reallocation. Expenses mounted for them in fees, but for me, it confirmed Harriet's vision. With the action faltering, their economic structure collapsed next. Caitlin's burdens amassed via unchecked outlays on high-end rentals, financed vehicles, and fancy outings had been endorsed by Mom and Dad long ago. As collectors ramped pressure, the load overwhelmed. They opted for Chapter 7 relief, the asset-clearing path typical in Illinois, for heavy, unsecured loads. Proceedings liquidated holdings, including their valued Oak Park home, auctioned off to meet claims. The step erased decades of built value, pushing them to a tight lease in a distant area. Ratings tanked deeply. Rodney's prior strong score now blocked simple borrowings, while Lori's card restructures flopped time after time. Caitlin's premium auto vanished in recovery midway, her accessories and bags sold off for basics. The clearance arrived post-strict reviewer checks, but the mark persisted, hindering prospects and daily flows. Community withdrawal struck deepest, spreading across our wider circle. Kin who'd watched the tilts for years started pulling away. A cousin from the outskirts contacted me early, detailing how he'd advanced Caitlin funds ages back without return. I'm finished with the aiding, he shared, on a line siding with my view after the full rundown. Aunt Pauline, already informed as trust observer, spoke out at remaining meets, detailing Harriet's clear directives and decrying the adjustments. News circulated via messages and discreet calls, casting Lori, Rodney, and Caitlin as graspers. Holiday nods shrank. Former acquaintances from Chicago groups sent private notes of support to me but steered clear of them. Caitlin's network narrowed as past associates caught wind of her traits through links like Garrett, who subtly verified the excess stories. The kin group, once a show of cohesion, broke openly, isolating them in former spheres. Spencer navigated his own path amid this. His shift at the reception, admitting the overreach, led to his own break from the core. He reached out sporadically post-event, expressing regret for past roles in the backing. Yet I kept distance, wary of full ties given his earlier part. His choice to align somewhat with me added to their fallout, but it didn't mend the broader rift. Through it, I upheld complete detachment. Their early flood of blame-filled notes. Your sister's crushed Rodney's wellness dips from strain stayed unread, each sender restricted after a glance. Rings from unknown digits, probably alternates to dodge blocks, went to messages erased without play. No gesture came from me. Efforts at mending, like Lori's emotional plea for kin repair, faced void. I switched my contact fully after repeated recordings directing any residual estate points via Mr. Caldwell. Sessions with a specialist fortified my choice, underscoring that separation wasn't harsh, it was safeguard, ending the loop of harm that had lingered too long. As their realm shrank, mine broadened, unburdened a purposeful selection without reversal space. A year later, rooted in my Chicago routine, I channeled the legacy into a meaningful outlet, the Harriet Creative Literacy Initiative. Using part of the trust assets, I founded this organization to reflect her insights, centering on sessions for emerging adults tackling creativity and resources. We crafted programs mixing hands-on elements like design tools and reserve planners, with segments on detecting pressure such as sentiment polls or uneven kin shares. Classes at Chicago's neighborhood hubs attracted eager attendees keen to grasp asserting resource control without cutoff. Each meeting included practical exercises simulating limit talks in legacy scenarios or spotting signs in joint costs. Helpers from design fields assisted in building digital modules extending to thousands through no-cost online meets. Receiving a note from a young participant about dodging a harmful family advance validated it. Harriet's impact endured, strengthening others where our setup had stumbled. Counseling served as my steady base in the shift. Regular meets with Dr. Vaughn dissected the split's depths, aiding me in handling sorrow not solely for Harriet, but for the bonds I'd ended. He steered me to spot embedded routines, the propping from youth. The bottled frustration and how quiet had sustained the skew. Methods like tracking responses, charted activators, remorse from skipped contacts, or uncertainty in calm periods. Gradually, I reshaped the outcome as vital progress, releasing the load of duty. Dr. Vaughn's views confirmed that detachment wasn't defeat, but a route to wellness, arming me to advance without backward glances. My selected circle bridged the gap naturally. Carrie Reliable from our university era grew beyond companionship. She freed up days for strolls through Chicago's paths, absorbing as I released pent-up ire. Her endorsement mirrored Harriet's principles, stressing that bonds flourish on balance. Aunt Pauline rose in role too, arranging simple suppers where we'd exchange chuckles over past images, her attendance linking to healthy origins minus prior poison. No lineage duty shaped these links. They stemmed from shared uplift, like when she linked me to initiative backers, or Carrie refined session outlines into evenings. This web assisted through mornings' subtler phases, abrupt recalls in market lanes, or vacant celebrations, converting isolation to resilience. The ordeals condensed into key takeaways I carried routinely. Establishing limits isn't self-centered, it's vital for maintaining health amid forces urging yield. My value arises from honesty, not conceding to others' calls or gauging worth by contributions. Resource autonomy secures tranquility, forming a shield against misuse and nurturing genuine steadiness. And kin. It's marked by equal regard, not mere lineage ties that elevate instead of deplete. Harriet's ultimate offering wasn't merely holdings, it was insight to pick connections wisely. For those navigating akin pressures, recognize that choosing self disrupts patterns, clearing ways to true contentment.